Hello lovely people, let's get painting. When I started this filming I already had this background, but I'll show you in my sketchbook how I did it with the same techniques. I'm first setting my stuff up, a pot of water, my mop brush and a paper tissue. I'm also preparing some puddles of water and pigments mixture of the colors that I want to use. And then the play can start. Wet your paper and drop in the colors, watch them flow and enjoying the process. And then when the paper is still wet, we grab a little salt. I'm using sea salt here. Put a little in a bowl so I can better control how much I put on. And the salt attracts the water and the pigments. So around the grain of salt, the water and pigments will be drawn toward that one grain, leaving a lighter spot around it. And that creates an effect that you can use for stars and extra texture like this. So we wait until it's fully dried, until you brush it off. And then it's time to start adding your foreground. I'll be grabbing my original painting and some black paint. And I was having this idea of a landscape with a reflection, and on the one side, on the up side, I wanted to paint nature with mountains and trees, and in the reflection on the water upside down I wanted the same composition but with a cityscape. So I am calling this a reversed reflection painting. About the black paint that I'm using here, it is a handmade watercolor made by Rebecca of Humphreys Studios, and I will link her shop below because I really love this this specific black watercolor because of its granulation. You can see it here in the video. The pigments fall apart in little bits and pieces, creating such a beautiful texture. The black isn't just black, it's so interesting to look at. There's so much happening there. It's a beautiful paint. It is called Black Bear, this specific black watercolor. And this isn't sponsored or anything, it's just a shout out because I love it so much. And I like sharing these tips with you. Moving on to the cityscape side of the painting. I turned my paper around, that's easier, the direction for my hand to paint. And I started with one black line, leaving a little bit of white between the upside of this landscape, and I'm drawing in these blocks of architecture houses with a little perspective, 1-point perspective, and varying the shapes of the buildings a little, the same way that the shapes of the trees vary along the horizon. Now it can seem very challenging to paint precisely like this, but this is something that you can easily practice. To paint with a steady hand, I got a few tips for you. First of all, be sure you feel steady. Don't drink too much coffee, don't be in a hurry. Just breathe in and out, enjoying the process and relaxing a little bit. And then the other one, more practical maybe, is turning the paper in such a way that you can draw your hand over the paper in the direction of your shoulder. So you are moving your whole arm instead of just moving the brush from your fingertips. That's that little movement I use only for small details. But if you want long straight lines, be sure you move your whole arm from the shoulder so the movement is big and steady. And just practice this a lot. I find painting like this really helps me to get into a flow state of mind, because it asks a lot of concentration and focus, but at the same time it is so satisfying when it pays off. This is the reason that I paint, to rebalance myself, my mind. And that's even more so when the projects also have a little playfulness in them. Not only the precisions, but also some splattering white ink. In this case I'm using a toothbrush and I'm covering the black areas with my tissue paper. I could have grabbed a little bit more, but I just wanted to get it done. I didn't want to stop, get out of the flow. Just really wanted to see those stars in the sky. And then deciding to paint a little more pigments on my trees, because in comparison with the cityscape side, the trees were still a shade lighter, so I'm adding an extra layer over there. And then comes the time to add details. I was thinking to put some airplanes in the sky on the cityscape side and birds in the sky on the landscape side. I'm using a dry brush technique to add pink strokes as the trails of the airplanes in the sky. And to complement that level of detail on the landscape side, I'm adding a few fluffy pink clouds. And then I'm grabbing my white gel pen to play around with the stars, making some of them brighter, shinier, drawing crosses in them and connecting them with lines to show some constellations. So the final steps will be removing the tape and cutting the paper away from the painting block. And this is very tricky, always very careful not to tear the paper. And I'm really glad it removes very well and that there are no bleeds under the tape. And there we go. Then I have an old blunt kitchen knife that I can stick in there. And from the inside out, that's very important, always cut from the inside out, so you won't cut into your paper, but only releasing it from the glued sides. And there we have it, the reversed reflection painting. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. This is my very first YouTube video, and I hope you'll stay tuned for more. Please hit the thumbs up if you liked it, and subscribe to my channel. And I'm wishing you a lot of smiling lines during your painting moments. Bye bye, lovely people. Until the next one.